Is the organization committed to Kyrie long term?
Yeah, look, I think that's something we've been discussing and we will continue to debrief on and discuss throughout this off season. And it's honestly not just Kyrie. I mean, you bring Kyrie up, but we have decisions to make on a variety of different free agents. We haven't had any of those discussions yet, so it'd be unfair for me to comment on, how it looks with us and Kyrie, because to be quite frank, he has some decisions to make on his own. So he has to look at what he's going to do with his player option and so forth like that.
Sean, you mentioned the conversations are always ongoing with Kevin. Do you still get the sense that he views Kyrie as that foundational piece that he wants to move forward with in the next few years here?
Yeah, I actually have not had that conversation with Kevin, but at the end of the day, I mean, more often than not, it's myself making those decisions. And, it's not me going to Kevin saying, do you want this person? Do you want that person? Who do you want back? I don't think that's fair to place that on Kevin. Now, is he surprised by anything? Absolutely not. Because he will know ahead of time what we're doing and what we plan on doing with, to be honest, the entire roster.
All right, back at the desk with Richard Kendrick and senior writer Ramona Shelburne. Ramona, I want to start with you here. From all of the reporting that you've done, what's the next step for Kyrie and the Nets here?
Well, look, this is the Nets. Sean Marks basically trying to reset the culture here. This is him saying, I'm in charge, Joe Tsai's in charge. That whole comment that Kyrie made at the end of the season of me and Kevin, and along with Joe and Sean, that comment, that did not go over well, as you can tell. And this was a big reset, I thought, from management to say we're in charge. And even the comment where he's asked by, I think that was Nick Friedel asking that question, saying, have you had a conversation with Kevin about that? And he says, I haven't. But he's never surprised by anything. In other words, I make that decision. More often than not, I'm the one who makes that decision. Now, saying that and actually doing it are two very different things. And I think the big question the Nets have to answer first is what happens with Kyrie Irving and his player option? If he picks it up, they can extend him. Do you offer that extension, or do you say we want to see how you do this year?
So,
big
Richard,
question.
You moonlight for the Nets as an analyst. You played for them. How do you see all of this playing out?
Well, I agree with Ramona. They're trying to gain back. Some of the things that made the Nets such an attractive free agency destination for KD and for Kyrie is the culture. It was Kenny Atkinson, it was Sean Marks, it was Joe Tsai, the culture that was building. Then they show up and they're working, they're adding in different players, but they did lose a bit of their culture. And look, we're going to talk about the Lakers later in the show. We're going to talk about both these teams and both these kind of the message sent from both of these franchises are we were unhappy. Well, we can do all the talking we want. We want to see what you're going to do to change, because what's currently working has not been working, not at the level that everyone expects us to be. So I don't mind all the talking done here in May, in June, in July, and all that stuff. It's more about what's going to happen when we know there's going to be another moment. That's just the way the NBA is, and we'll see what happens.
Well, I actually love the talking from Sean Marks, because I think you got to start from somewhere. And I think, going Kyrie Irving way and Kevin Durant way, it hasn't gotten you nowhere, definitely not to the ultimate goal. And it's caused you more problems than it has success. So I actually love Sean Marks coming out publicly and speaking on Kyrie Irving and speaking on the culture and the whole situation at hand, because he's listening along with Kevin Durant. And I also love how he took control and said, yes, I'm going to make the decisions, but will Kevin Durant be surprised? No, I'm going to let him know, meaning that I'm still going to let KD have some type of input, but ultimately I'm going to be the one that's in charge. And I think you got to start from somewhere, and I applaud Sean Marks for doing that.
Well, as you can imagine, Ben Simmons was also a hot topic in this, and Marks was asked about Simmons and how they plan on working him into the fold. Take a listen.
Regarding Ben, I think post-surgery now, I don't want to speak for him, but I can sense there's a relief. There's a new lease on life. So your question is, how do we support him, through the mental performance side of things? And, I think that's a touchy subject, right? I don't want to talk about somebody's mental health or mental performance. I'm going to let Ben address that at the correct time. And so we're going to be doing everything we possibly can to get him around our group. That is the key. He needs to be in here, smell the gym again, around his friends, around his family, around, to be quite frank, and participate in this, and let us help him, build the culture together, build up together, build him up, build him back up, because as Steve alluded to, he is a big, big part of this.
That word culture was used a whole lot as Sean Marks was speaking today. But Ramona, what exactly does Ben Simmons need to do before he can get on the court for Brooklyn?
Well, look, he's coming off a back surgery, and Sean Marks also said when they did an MRI on his back after the season, after he complained of having a soreness before that final game, it showed the herniation had gotten bigger. And so that's why he ended up having surgery. I know they went to 3 or 4 different surgeons. They all agreed he should have surgery. That takes about 6 weeks before you get back in the gym, but they expect him to make a full return physically before training camp. It's the fact that they're talking about trying to help him with his mental health work. That's important, and the Sixers wanted to do the same thing. But Ben wasn't interested in that because he didn't have trust in their franchise. He wanted to do it on his own. So let's see how much of this is physical and how much of this is mental.
So knowing all of that, Perk, what's your biggest question with the Nets this offseason?
It's the culture, right? And I appreciate Sean Marks talking about it. But again, how do you make Kevin Durant happy? But because all what Kyrie had going on, Kevin Durant has been 100% in. So how do you make Kevin Durant happy? Because sooner or later, you got to think about it. At some point, Kevin Durant, if things keep going the way that they're going, he's going to get aggravated and get pissed off. And you don't want a chance of losing Kevin Durant, KD, arguably, a top 5 player in this game today. So that's the biggest question mark, making sure that you keep Kevin Durant happy.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.